What happened today has made it crystal clear that President Trump is acting against the advice of top Pentagon and national security officials because he thinks he knows better.
I know more about ISIS than the generals do, believe me.
Is the president smarter than his generals? Think about it. Is he smarter than his generals? Does he know more than his generals? A man with no military experience got 5 deferments during the Vietnam War. Remember bone spurs? A man who once said that avoiding STDs, sexually transmitted diseases, when he was single, was his own personal Vietnam. A man who has disparaged Gold Star families. Does he know more about these conflicts than a 4-star general? A 4-star general with a 40-year military career. Well, we're all about to find out. The world is about to find out. General Mattis has had it. He's had enough. General Kelly is leaving as Chief of Staff. General McMaster, long gone as National Security Advisor. So here's what I want to do for you, because you need to hear it, okay? I want to read the full text of Mattis's resignation letter. We can see where he spells out his differences with President Trump. He calls out the president's dismissal of America's long-standing military alliances such as NATO and hints at Trump's coziness with Russia and China, saying those countries are trying to shape the world in their authoritarian models. Okay? Please give me your attention. Here it is. It says, "Dear Mr. President, I have been privileged to serve as our country's 26th Secretary of Defense, which has allowed me to serve alongside our men and women of the department in defense of our citizens and our ideals. I am proud of the progress that has been made over the past 2 years on some of the key goals articulated in our national defense strategy, putting the department on a more sound budgetary footing, improving readiness and lethality in our forces, and reforming the department's business practices for greater performance. Our troops continue to provide the capabilities needed to prevail in conflict and sustain strong U.S. global influence. One core belief I have always held is that our strength as a nation is inextricably linked to the strength of our unique and comprehensive system of alliances and partnerships. While the U.S. remains the indispensable nation in the free world, we cannot protect our interests or serve that role effectively without maintaining strong alliances and showing respect to those allies. Like you, I have said from the beginning that the armed forces of the United States should not be the policemen of the world. Instead, we must use all tools of American power to provide for the common defense, including providing effective leadership to our alliances. NATO's 29 democracies demonstrated that strength in their commitment to fighting alongside us following the 9/11 attack on America. The Defeat ISIS coalition of 74 nations is further proof. Similarly, I believe we must be resolute and unambiguous in our approach to those countries whose strategic interests are increasingly in tension with ours. It is clear that China and Russia, for example, want to shape a world consistent with their authoritarian model, gaining veto authority over other nations' economic, diplomatic, and security decisions to promote their own interests at the expense of their neighbors, America and our allies. That is why we must use all the tools of American power to provide for the common defense. My views on treating allies with respect and also being clear-eyed about both malign actors and strategic competitors are strongly held and informed by over 4 decades of immersion in these issues. We must do everything possible to advance an international order that is most conducive to our security, prosperity, and values. And we are strengthened in this effort by the solidarity of our alliances. Because you have the right to have a Secretary of Defense whose views are better aligned with yours on these and other subjects, I believe it is right for me to step down from my position. The end date for my tenure is February 28, 2019, a date that should allow sufficient time for a successor to be nominated and confirmed, as well as to make sure the department's interests are properly articulated and protected at upcoming events, to include congressional posture hearings and the NATO Defense Ministerial meeting in February. Further, that a full transition to a new Secretary of Defense occurs well in advance of the transition of Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff in September, in order to ensure stability within the department. I pledge my full effort to a smooth transition that ensures the needs and interests of the 2.15 million service members and the 732,079 DoD civilians receive undistracted attention of the department at all times, so that they can fulfill their critical round-the-clock mission to protect the American people. I very much appreciate this opportunity to serve the nation and our men and women in uniform. No mention of the president. The reaction of Democratic Congressman John Garamendi of California sums up what a lot of Americans are thinking tonight, using two words when told Mattis is leaving the Pentagon. Those two words, and I quote, "Oh shit." Mattis is often called one of the adults inside the Trump administration. Soon he will be gone, along with Kelly, with McMaster, with Tillerson. The list is too long to go through. And as the world reeled in shock from this announcement, who strolled out of the White House to face the cameras and make the case for this administration?
There is a lot to be happy about right now.
Stephen Miller, sounding a bit unhinged.
Let's talk about Syria. Let's talk about the fact ISIS is the enemy of Russia. ISIS is the enemy of Assad. ISIS is the enemy of Turkey. Are we supposed to stay in Syria for generation after generation, spilling American blood to fight the enemies of all those countries?
The president says on one day that ISIS is defeated. The next day he says ISIS is there and let Russia take care of it.
ISIS has been defeated, but if ISIS wants to retrench and regrow and reorganize, it's going to be up to those countries to defeat their enemy.
Why is he screaming? He's wearing a microphone. Are there any adults left inside the Trump White House besides the president's adult daughter and son-in-law, maybe? And the Mattis resignation comes as the federal government is on the verge of shutting down tomorrow night, days before the Christmas and New Year's holidays. President Trump telling Congress that he won't sign a temporary spending bill to keep the government open if he doesn't get his funding for his border wall. After unfollowing Ann Coulter because she tweeted his presidency is a joke if he doesn't build a wall. Yes, really, that happened. He doesn't have Republican votes, and he knows it. But when the White House hinted Trump would accept the temporary bill, his conservative base and right-wing media went crazy. So now the clock is ticking on a government shutdown tomorrow. It's ticking on the opening of a stock market that has already been teetering amid the uncertainty of the president's policies. Like I said, if you're worried tonight, you should be.